Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate Breakdown for May 20th. We got an 8-game slate today, and just a reminder, we are starting about 25 minutes earlier than we normally do on a slate. It is a 3:40 PST start time, 6:40 for you East Coasters. If you're somewhere in the middle, you can figure it out. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS. You get it all, one low price. So come join us. Let's get in the fun, and let's take a look at this good old slate here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off by going through the perfect lineups on both FanDuel and DraftKings, and the winning lineups on both sites as well. And then we will get into the pitchers to consider for today and some stacks to consider. I think it's an interesting slate, and let's dive in. Starting with the perfect lineup for yesterday. And we got Corbin Burnes, who went nuts. 58 was his score on FanDuel. He had 11 Ks. Only one earned run, allowed 7 hits. It's just guys weren't able to score, and he just kept shutting people down with strikeouts. Outside of that, it was all one-offs, so no stacking in the perfect lineup. However, in the winning lineup, still had plenty of stacking. We had Tanner Bibee, who was only 8.2% owned, put up 46, and then a 4-man Boston and 3-man Houston stack with a one-off with Andres Jimenez of Cleveland. Got it done. So Be Great 36, congrats to you. 255.7 was the winning lineup. I had a 13th place lineup, didn't quite get it done. Unfortunately for me, I had a 0 and a 6 in my lineup. So I was 25 off, but didn't quite get there. Toronto stack just let me down a little bit. Those two guys just couldn't make it happen for me. But I lived to fight another day, and now let's check on the good old DraftKings perfect lineup. Going back to yesterday. And what do we got here? We have Nick Pivetta, Alek Manoah, and all one-offs once again here, using all of the salary, 247.25. And then the winning lineup went to Big Dak, 194.55. with Chris Paddock and Alek Manoah. So pretty contrarian pitchers here, along with a contrarian Houston stack. 5-man Houston stack got it done. And then it was all one-offs. So Clemens, Witt, and Vogelback. Hitting with Vogelback and Clemens is a little wild as far as one-offs. They're just not guys that will come off, routinely, but it worked out. 5-1-1-1 stack got it done. Congrats to Big Dak. And let's jump into today's slate. So as I said, it is 8 games. Highest game total is 9. That is Detroit and KC. It is super warm, and winds are slightly blowing out, I believe. Outside of that, we got an 8.5 game total over here, and then 8 is the highest game total. So let's dig into the pitcher. So the highest owned pitcher today is Yamamoto, 10.5K, 1.9X. We have him at 20 projection, and he's been pitching unbelievable this season. 3.29 FIP, 3.21 ERA, 10 Ks per 9, 27.5% K rate. He's been pitching 3.38 FIP over his last 5 starts with a 2.56 ERA. So there could be some regression coming to him over the short term. That 25% K rate was down a little bit, but all in all, it all looks good. The only problem that I see in his numbers is he's allowing 38% hard contact, but it's mostly ground balls, not a ton of fly balls, not a ton of line drives, not a ton of barrel balls. I think he looks fine. It's just that, the projection system only has him at 1.9x, so I don't think he's in a spot where I need to get him in. He is only 27%, so I'm not going to fade him just due to the high ownership, though. There's plenty other guys that I can fade. I'll have a little bit of Yamamoto next. Pablo Lopez, 9.5K, 2.3x. So he is looking way better on LineStar than Yamamoto. He's cheaper. The projection is higher. A lot of reasons to like him. However, I want to start off by the reasons to possibly fade Lopez. So 1, 48% fly balls. Not many ground balls. So that, doesn't look great. Decent amount of barrel balls. I wouldn't be really too worried about that. Team BVP, 38 plate attempts. They're hitting 294 off him. So that is why to maybe fade Pablo Lopez. But I do think he's due for some positive regression. 3.26 FIP over the last 20, 3.08 over the last 5, 3.9 ERA over that time. 31% K rate. He is striking out a lot of guys. 10.37 per 9 over this season. So a little more than Yamamoto. But over the last month, that's up to 11.39. So I am absolutely intrigued by Lopez. Washington has got to him a little bit, but this combined K rate of 27% is very high, and I'm very intrigued to go to him. All in all, Washington's offense isn't that great either. 2.94 WOBA versus righties, 123 ISO. He really just needs to, miss some bats on key hitters, and he could run away with that game and look great. Next, we got Taj Bradley. Look, 8K is probably a little cheap for him for his skill level, for how well he's been pitching, but we only have him at 1.6x. He is the clear, probably fade from LineStar point of view right now. 4.89 FIP over his last 5, 4.94 over his last 20. One thing I do have to point out is that he's only had 2 games this year. And the ERA is at 2.45 with 10.64 Ks per 9. So his numbers this year are similar to the 2 high-owned guys, but he's a little bit cheaper. Now, the Red Sox are the better offense than the 2 others that Yamamoto's facing, Diamondbacks, Lopez, Washington. Boston, 0.320 WOBA versus righties, 175 ISO. So they do hit righties hard. It's not an easy matchup for him. 22.3% combined K rate isn't quite high enough for me to really prioritize him. However, I think his K rate is high enough that he should garner some interest. His personal K rate is more like 27%, and Boston is striking out 23%. So I think there is some data to support wanting to play him, but at the little bit of higher ownership, our low projection, he's not one of the guys I am prioritizing. Next, we got Joe Ross. He is one of the value plays I would be highly considering at 5.8K against the Marlins, who just aren't that great of an offense. 300 WOBA, striking out at 21%. Ross doesn't have huge upside, but at 5.8x or 5.8K and 2.8x, I'm very much intrigued. He has had a couple games in the 20s, and that's really all you need out of a 5.8K player. Can he get there? Absolutely. It's a good matchup. There are some things to not like about his data, but if you look at it, 3.8 FIP over the last 20, 4.4 over the last 5, I'm fine with those numbers at his price. Not a ton of upside in the K department, but there is enough. StatCast-wise, he's letting some hard hit balls go. He's letting a lot of fly balls, but he's 5.8K. You're not going to get a squeaky clean 5.8K guy. I'm definitely intrigued. Don't mind going there. Next, we got Framber Valdez, 2.5x, 8.8K. Our projection is high. The consensus is a little lower than I would have expected, but Framber's in a fine spot here. Pitched really well last game versus Oakland, going 8 Ks in 7 innings, 97 pitches. Now, the A's have been good versus lefties. 23% bad versus lefties. 23% K rate, only a 140 WOBA. ISO. WOBA is 308 over the short term, 313 over the longer term. And StatCast data is decent. He is allowing 34% hard contact, but a ton of ground balls, very few fly balls, some line drives. But all in all, Framber's pitching very well over this last month, 3.03 FIP. I'm intrigued by Framber. However, there are some scary things. 377 in 57 plate attempts. Not great. 245 ISO. The Angels have got to him a little bit. Now, it's been over, multiple years. Some of these are with Shohei and Trout. Some are, with only one of them. But Angels have had some success. And if we go to the matchup tool, we can look at that a little bit more. Ward, 435 WOBA, decent K rate, but low ISO. Adele, 10 plate attempts and 40% K rate, but 445 WOBA. Neto, 517 WOBA. So there is several guys that have had decent outings versus him. And so Adele has had a total of 17 plate attempts, hitting 312 off him, 250 ISO. The chance that he hits a home run with these kind of numbers are probably better than you'd expect. He's definitely done well versus it. So there's definitely some data to support wanting to fade him. However, all in all, I think Framber is in line for a pretty good spot, and I'm probably going to have a decent amount of him if he is the 5th highest owned pitcher. Next, we got Tanner Huck. He's only coming in at 1.6x for us. Projection of 15. I like him a little bit more than LineStar does. He's been pitching great lately. 2.5 WOBA. FIP. He's averaging almost 23% more fantasy points at home. His K rate at home is almost 10 per 9. When he's away, it's 8.2. So his strikeout rate is higher at home. Meanwhile, his strikeout rate versus Tampa Bay right now, 34%, 53 plate attempts. He's done very well versus Tampa Bay. So I am a little bit intrigued at low ownership. I might want to force a little bit more in my lineup, but all in all, 1.6x isn't a great projection. Thus, why one of these probably a little lower owned than most. Next, Sonny Gray, definitely one of the better pitchers on the slate, but he's going against this Baltimore offense who hits righties extremely hard, 176 ISO. They do only have a 306 WOBA though, so if you want to get to Baltimore, you want to hit them with righties. Now, the one thing though is some of that WOBA data is from guys that didn't have much of a track record last year, or it could be pulling it down because they're, very young players. I think the WOBA data for this year looks a little different, and they're going to look a little bit better. Do I want to fade Sonny Gray because they're facing the Royals? It's not my favorite spot. However, I think Sonny Gray is a good enough pitcher, and he's going low enough owned that he warrants some consideration. Guy has a 33% K rate over the last 5 starts with a 3.45 FIP. I am absolutely intrigued. 27% K rate. The upside is there for me to consider him against this Baltimore offense. Do I love the play? No, but I'm going to have some because he's going low owned and he's just way too good of a pitcher to go this low owned. Stroman, I don't love it. Logan Gilbert, he's 1.9x. I think you can consider him, keep him in your player pool. However, versus this Yankees offense, who's hitting very well, I don't love the spot. The last guy I want to talk about is Michael Wacha, going 6.6K, 2.6x. I'm very intrigued here. He has the ceiling we want. We've seen him put up 30s. For, mid-4s FIP is fine. The K rate, around 20% at his price is fine. He does allow too many fly balls, and there is some nice hitting weather with 90-degree temps, slight wind blowing out. So I wouldn't expect, a crispy, clean, White Sox production day where he goes 7 innings and has 8 Ks. I think more likely if he has a good game, it's probably more like this, where it's 6 innings, 6 Ks, 2-3 earned runs. At 6.6x, I'm fully willing to go there. Now, Detroit has hit him well in the past, but does that mean they're going to hit him well now? I don't know. He typically has done a little worse on the road versus Detroit and better at home versus Detroit. And he's at home, so I'm definitely intrigued in the spot for Waka. Now let's head over to FanDuel. All right. So highest owned on FanDuel, Pablo Lopez. I think he probably should be the highest owned. He has the upside. Definitely intrigued to go to him. Next, we got Yamamoto. I love Yamamoto. I think he's a great pitcher. I don't love the spot against Arizona. They are just a little bit of a pesky offense. However, he can absolutely get it done, so he is in my player pool. I just don't think he should be the second highest owned guy. Stroman, 13% is too high owned for me. However, at 7.9K, he's getting cheap enough where I would consider him. He can definitely give you 40, and at that price, it's worth it. He's facing a Seattle team that's striking out at 27%. They have a low WOBA, low ISO at 1.4. I don't mind going here. I personally just don't love the upside and probably not going to have much of him. Next, we got Framber, 9.5K. Absolutely my player pool, especially at low ownership. Going to have some of him on FanDuel. Gonna have some Sonny Gray at 10.2K. Don't absolutely love it, but at low ownership, I got to take some swings here. He's too good of a pitcher going too low owned here. Definitely going to have some, a little bit of Joe Ross maybe if I want to pay up at offense. He can put up 40 and he's 6.6K. Will he put up 40? Probably not. But if he gets near that price or that, score at 6.6, I don't mind it, and I think he can do it. It's a good spot for him, so I don't mind having a little bit. I also don't mind having some Tanner Huck because nobody's going to be there, and I'm definitely going to have a little Michael Wacha. 4.4K or 7.4K, 4.4X is just a little too enticing. I mean, he can literally give you 50. If he gives you mid-40s at this price, you are happy. So I think there's a lot of outs where he can do good, not kill your lineup, but give you that upside to win, especially at super low ownership. So he's going to be in my player pool for sure. Outside of that, I'm probably not really playing too much here. I think the likelihood of, say, Huck, Bradley, Gray, Valdez, Yamamoto, and Lopez, so you have 6 guys around that 10K salary area, the likelihood of one of them having, a ceiling game or a close to ceiling game is decent. So I don't know if those value guys are really going to cut it today. Wacha, I think, has that upside where he could still make it, even if one of those guys goes. Joe Ross, I don't think, has the upside to make it if one of those 10K guys, has a real solid game. Same with Stroman. So that's why Wacha is probably my favorite of those lower price options. Now, let's get into some stacks. Stack attack. Now we're going to start on ceiling because I'm there now. Might as well not change it. All right, so highest ceiling. We got Aaron Judge and the Yankees. I'm not going to say Juan Soto and the Yankees because, Padres. But Aaron Judge and the Yankees have the highest ceiling. It's against Logan Gilbert, who Gilbert's been a very, very solid pitcher. I don't want to pick on Gilbert, but this Yankees offense is hot right now. Judge is hitting and crushing the ball, and they're moderately priced. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Yankees at super low ownership. But once again, it is not a matchup that I totally love. Now, going to ownership. Highest owned plays on the slate. We got Minnesota versus Mitchell Parker. Now, Mitchell Parker has pitched very well. 3.5 FIP so far this season. 3.85 over the last 5. The ERA is 3. There's probably some regression coming to him. However, he's pitched very, very well. And I don't love the spot trying to pick on him personally. Now, Milwaukee versus Ryan Weathers, I do like. I am very intrigued on this one. The reason being is Weathers has historically allowed the long ball a lot. 2.1 last year, 1.7 per 9 on his in his career. And the thing here is that his hard hit rate this season is actually higher than it was the other seasons. The only difference is he's just having more ground balls. Now, yes, he has changed some pitches to change some strategies to make that happen, but I just don't think he's that great of a pitcher, and I think this Milwaukee offense, who's hitting very well, has Yelich back, can do a lot of different damage with both on the base pass and with some power. I think they're very interesting. Weathers, FIP of 5.68 over the last 20, FIP of 5 over the last 5. So that goes to show me that he hasn't really improved all that much. I'm fine picking on him. Minnesota's popping up a ton still too. Once again, I would just rather Milwaukee over Minnesota. Next, let's go to the highest projected stats. We got the Dodgers. So Dodgers are moderately owned. They're not too high owned. The thing I got to bring up here, and we talked about this last week a little bit, it's a bullpen game for Arizona. Mantiply is going to go an inning, maybe 2 innings. He's been good. Don't want to pick on him. The issue I have with bullpen games is the team obviously brings in a guy to cover up an inning or 2, and he brings them at advantageous positions for the pitcher, not for the hitter. So while I think the field loves to run to these bullpen games, I personally don't love them. I just think it's hard for these offenses to see 4 or 5 different pitchers throughout the game and really crush that other team. Now, they're not as good as pitchers coming in, but they're asked just to do one job, see 3, 4, 6 hitters, and they're out. So I don't love facing them. Dodger offense is something different. Dodger offense, you can always stack, and I'm not going to try and talk you off of a Dodger stack. I think they're fine. The Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Will Smith, Hernandez, they're all good enough that they're going to be able to hit any pitcher. So I'm fine with whenever you want to go to a Dodger stack. However, I just got to throw that out there as far as my piece of not loving to stack against bullpen games when, I feel like the field is overstacking them a little bit. Next, we got Houston versus Reed Detmers. Detmers has fallen off a little bit. He was great to start the year, but now 5.76 FIP over the last 5, 4.37 over the last 20. The splits are going in Houston's favor. Houston's been hitting the ball well. They've been playing a little bit better. Definitely intrigued with going to Houston stack. Don't mind that whatsoever. Also, Milwaukee's popping up as one of our highest projected stacks as well. So they're a higher owned and higher projected. You got to like that. And this is what I find interesting. You can get Milwaukee at a moderately owned 49%. You don't have to play the 70% Milwaukee owned stack. There are so many different ways to get a little different with a chalky stack that I rarely will totally fade a high owned team or stack. All right, next, let's get to the value stacks of the day. We got Seattle versus Stroman. I love this one. They're not going very high owned. They have a lot of power, so you can get a couple home runs. Stroman hasn't been pitching very good. 5.87 FIP, 4.6 over his last 20. I think the Yankees way overpaid him. I don't think he's that great of a pitcher. Doesn't have great strikeout stuff. I'm absolutely intrigued to go with some Seattle. I think they're going under-owned in the spot and probably a little bit overlooked just because Stroman kind of has a name. Boston versus Taj is popping up a little bit. I think Taj is kind of finding out who he is as a pitcher now, and he's starting to look pretty good. He's been very good these last two slates, so I don't love picking on him. Next, let's get to the highest FIP over the last 20, and that is Ryan Weathers. Milwaukee, one of my favorite stacks. All right. Highest implied total. Detroit and KC. Like I said, it's like 90 degrees. The wind's slightly blowing out. I get why this game is one that has the higher implied total. It is a good hitting environment. But I do think both pitchers are decent. Waka can be very good in some games. 4.2 FIP is fine over the last 20. Reese Olson has been very good this year. I don't love trying to pick on him. Now, there's also the Detroit bullpen that's good. I think KC might go a little bit over-owned. I am intrigued by them, and I'm intrigued by both offenses a little bit because of that 4.8 implied total and the hitting weather. But I don't love the matchups from the pitchers. Houston versus Detmers hasn't been very good. 4.6. I like it. The Dodgers, I like it at 4.6. Brewers, I like at 4.6. All of those I am intrigued on. Also, the Angels, the Diamondbacks, and Marlins bullpen is all kind of poor. Yankees are at 4.3 versus Gilbert. Don't totally love it, but they're hitting well enough. St. Louis and Baltimore, there's nice hitting weather there as well. Don't mind taking some Cardinals who seem to be hitting the ball a little bit better now versus Kremer. Kremer's pretty much your average MLB pitcher. He can have days. He can also get hit some days. Minnesota, 4.2 implied runs, but they're one of the highest owned stacks. Doesn't happen that often that a team this low on the implied total is one of the higher owned stacks. So for me, that alone is a reason to kind of stay away. Mitchell Parker, I think, is just a better pitcher than the field is giving him credit to. Boston, Tampa Bay, you can all play them, but I'm probably not going to have very much of them. I'd probably be sticking to one-offs or small stacks of them. So that'll do it for us today, guys. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow. Let's make some money. Adios. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the video. It helps us a ton.